Nina never imagined that a 5-minute stop for coffee would destroy everything she thought she knew about her husband. As their car sat quietly in a crowded highway service area, she watched Alex smile at her through the windshield before stepping out. It was the same warm smile she had trusted for 12 years. The same smile that had comforted her through hard times, celebrated victories with her, and convinced her that no matter what happened in life, they would always face it together. Or so she believed. "Do you want anything?" Alex asked. "A cappuccino would be nice," Nina replied. He nodded and headed toward the cafe. The rain tapped softly against the windows. Nina leaned back in her seat and checked her phone. The long drive to visit Alex's mother had been exhausting, and she welcomed the brief pause. Then the car speakers suddenly crackled. At first, she thought it was the radio. But a familiar voice filled the vehicle. Alex's voice. Nina frowned. The Bluetooth system had connected automatically. She was about to disconnect it when another voice appeared. A woman's voice. Soft. Intimate. Comfortable. Far too comfortable. "Did she suspect anything?" the woman asked. Nina froze. Her fingers stopped moving. Alex laughed quietly. "No. Nina never suspects anything." The world around her seemed to disappear. For a moment, she wondered if she was hearing some kind of recording. But then the conversation continued. "You should have seen her face when she planned our anniversary trip," Alex said. "She still believes we're going to spend the rest of our lives together." The woman giggled. Nina felt her heart slam against her chest. Every word felt like a knife. "What about after the sale?" the woman asked. "We'll tell her then." "Sale? What sale?" Nina leaned forward, unable to breathe. Alex lowered his voice. "Once her father's property is transferred, there'll be no reason to keep pretending." The blood drained from Nina's face. Her father. The property. The inheritance. The documents she had signed 2 weeks earlier. The papers Alex had insisted were routine. The pieces suddenly began falling into place. And none of them formed a picture she wanted to see. She sat motionless while the conversation continued. For years she had trusted him with everything. Her finances. Her dreams. Her future. And now she was hearing him discuss her life like it was a business transaction. "How much longer?" the woman asked. "Maybe 2 months. And then?" Alex laughed again. "Then we're free." Nina stared through the rain-covered windshield. Free. That single word shattered something deep inside her. 12 years of marriage. Reduced to one word. Free. A car door slammed outside. The Bluetooth disconnected. Silence filled the vehicle. Nina quickly wiped her tears. Seconds later Alex returned carrying 2 coffees and a bag of pastries. His smile looked exactly the same. But now it felt like the smile of a stranger. "Everything okay?" he asked. Nina forced herself to smile. Of course. She accepted the coffee. And for the first time in her life, she lied to her husband. Because she knew one thing. If Alex was hiding something this big, she needed the truth before confronting him. The rest of the drive felt endless. Alex chatted casually. He talked about work. About his mother. About vacation plans. Meanwhile Nina replayed the conversation again and again. Every word. Every laugh. Every hidden meaning. By the time they arrived at his mother's house, she had made a decision. She would investigate quietly. No accusations. No emotional confrontations. Not yet. That night, while Alex slept beside her, Nina opened his laptop. She had never done that before. Trust had always made such things unnecessary. Now trust was gone. The password was easy. Their wedding date. The irony almost made her laugh. Inside his email account she found hundreds of messages. Most were ordinary. Work correspondence. Family updates. Bills. Then she found a hidden folder. Her stomach tightened. Inside were dozens of emails exchanged with a woman named Elena. Photos. Travel plans. Private jokes. Romantic messages stretching back almost 3 years. 3 years. While Nina believed her marriage was thriving, her husband had been living a second life. Tears blurred her vision. But she kept reading. Then she found something worse. Much worse. Legal documents. Contracts. Property records. Bank transfers. And one email that made her hands tremble. Once ownership is transferred through Nina's inheritance, the development agreement can proceed without complications. Nina reread the sentence. Then again. And again. Her inheritance wasn't merely part of Alex's plan. It was the entire reason for it. She felt physically sick. At dawn she closed the laptop. She had enough evidence. Enough proof. Enough heartbreak. But she still needed answers. The next morning she called an old friend. Victor. A lawyer she had known since university. She explained everything. By evening he had begun reviewing the documents. 2 days later his voice sounded grim. Nina, this is serious. How serious? Very. He paused. Some of these transfers may be fraudulent. The room spun. What does that mean? It means your husband may have manipulated legal documents to gain control of assets that belong to you. Nina sat silently. Each revelation seemed worse than the last. Can you prove it? She asked. Give me time. For the next 3 weeks Nina pretended everything was normal. She smiled. Cooked dinner. Shared conversations. Even laughed at Alex's jokes. Every day felt like acting in a painful play. Meanwhile Victor gathered evidence. Financial records. Emails. Contracts. Witness statements. The truth grew darker with every discovery. Alex and Elena weren't simply having an affair. They were planning a luxury resort development on land that had belonged to Nina's family for generations. Land her father had spent his life protecting. Land Alex intended to sell for millions. Without her knowledge. Without her consent. One evening Alex surprised her with flowers. Nina stared at them. Red roses. Her favorite. The same flowers he used to bring home when they were young. For a brief second she remembered the man she had fallen in love with. The man she thought he was. And that memory hurt more than the betrayal itself. Because now she understood something painful. The person she missed never truly existed. At least not anymore. A month after the coffee stop, Victor called. We're ready. Nina took a deep breath. What happens now? We expose everything. The opportunity arrived sooner than expected. Alex organized a formal dinner celebrating the finalization of the development project. Investors attended. Business partners attended. Elena attended. Though introduced as merely a consultant. Nina wore a black dress and smiled politely. Nobody suspected anything. Alex seemed especially pleased. He believed victory was close. As the evening progressed he stood and raised a glass. I'd like to thank everyone who helped make this project possible. Applause filled the room. Alex continued speaking. Confident. Proud. Certain. Then Nina stood. The room grew quiet. I'd also like to thank everyone. Alex smiled. Thinking she was supporting him. Nina looked directly at him. Then at Elena. Then at the guests. And finally at the projector screen behind them. Victor activated it. Emails appeared. Photos appeared. Financial records appeared. Contracts appeared. Every secret. Every lie. Every betrayal. Displayed for everyone to see. The silence was absolute. Alex's face turned pale. Elena looked horrified. Investors exchanged confused glances. What is this? Alex demanded. Nina's voice remained calm. The truth. One by one she explained everything. The affair. The fraud. The inheritance scheme. The property transfers. The manipulation. The deception. With every sentence Alex seemed to shrink. The confident businessman vanished, leaving behind a desperate man scrambling for excuses. It's not what it looks like, he said weakly. Nobody believed him. Not anymore. Several investors walked out immediately. Others demanded explanations. Lawyers began making phone calls. Within hours the project collapsed. Within days authorities launched investigations. Within weeks Alex's carefully constructed world began falling apart. And strangely, Nina felt no satisfaction. Only relief. Because the nightmare was finally ending. The divorce process lasted nearly a year. It wasn't easy. Alex fought hard. But the evidence was overwhelming. In the end Nina retained ownership of her inheritance. The family property remained protected. And Alex lost far more than money. He lost the reputation he had spent years building. He lost business partners. Friends. Trust. Everything. One afternoon, nearly 18 months after that day at the service station, Nina returned to the same cafe. Rain tapped gently against the windows just as it had before. She sat alone with a cup of coffee. Not because she was lonely. But because she had learned how peaceful solitude could be. The pain was gone now. Not completely. Some scars never disappear. But they no longer controlled her. As she looked outside, she noticed a young couple laughing while walking through the rain. For a moment she smiled. Life had surprised her. Not by giving her everything she wanted. But by teaching her she could survive losing what she thought she needed. Her phone buzzed. A message from Victor. A simple joke. She laughed. Then slipped the phone back into her purse. The future remained unwritten. And for the first time in many years, that felt exciting rather than frightening. Years earlier she had believed happiness came from trusting another person completely. Now she understood something different. Real strength came from trusting herself. From listening when something felt wrong. From finding courage when everything seemed broken. The most shocking conversation Nina ever heard didn't destroy her life. It revealed it. Because sometimes the truth arrives through unexpected speakers. Sometimes betrayal speaks too loudly. And sometimes the moment that breaks your heart becomes the very moment that saves your future.